Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 262 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about Bob Myers leaving the Golden State Warriors. When you think of the Warriors' dynastic run, you think of the obvious names: Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala, and head coach Steve Kerr. The name most casual observers leave off of that list is Bob Myers, the man who has been the president of basketball operations since 2012. Myers on Tuesday stepped down from the Warriors saying, quote, "It's just time." Here are some major moves Myers made during his time with the Warriors. In 2012, he drafted both Draymond Green, who was a second-round draft pick, turned him into an all-star and defensive player of the year, and Harrison Barnes, who was, of course, part of the 2015 championship roster. He signed forward Andre Iguodala, who went from an all-star to one of the best six men in NBA history, winning Finals MVP in 2015. He's also the man who brought in Kevin Durant. Who knows how big of a part Myers played in that happening? It seemed like the players are the ones who convinced KD to join the Warriors, but still Bob Myers deserves credit for it happening. And I know this is the move that most NBA fans hate. There are some people who still cannot forgive Kevin Durant for joining the Golden State Warriors. But Bob Myers did what Bob Myers is supposed to do. He put together one of the best basketball teams of all time. He's also made some underrated moves. Nobody was a fan of Bob Myers acquiring Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins was thought of as a bust, a guy who had been called out by his former teammates like Jimmy Butler for not hustling. Then Andrew Wiggins became a key core in the Golden State Warriors, helping them win their fourth championship and almost winning Finals MVP. I mean, there's a real case to be made that he should have won Finals MVP over Steph Curry. He completely shut down Jason Tatum, who is one of the best players in the league. And many have also given Myers a lot of credit for not breaking up Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. There were talks of trading Klay Thompson for Kevin Love, and thankfully that never happened, and we got one of the best backcourts in NBA history. Also, Myers deserves a lot of credit for hiring head coach Steve Kerr. There are a lot of executives that would have kept Mark Jackson as their coach. The Warriors were a good team. They were a playoff team. But Mark Jackson, in my opinion, was never going to lead them to a championship. It's like the Yankees moving on from Buck Showalter and getting Joe Torre. That's the move that needed to happen. Buck Showalter was a good manager. Joe Torre is the type of guy who can lead you to championships. It's the exact same thing with Mark Jackson and Steve Kerr. Both are very good head coaches, but Steve Kerr is the one who put the Warriors over the top. That's when they started to play like an all-time offensive and defensive basketball team. With Myers leaving the Warriors, the big question is, what does this mean for the future of the basketball team? The Warriors are basketball's modern dynasty. Is this the beginning of the end? I tend to think that dynasties end with players leaving the core of the Warriors. They are still intact at this moment, but maybe not for long. Draymond Green has a player option, and he's sure to pick that up. But after that, who knows? Green is no longer worth a massive contract, let alone the fact he's becoming a bit of a polarizing figure after punching teammate Jordan Poole, who the team just invested $122 million into. The Bulls' dynasty in the 90s ended with executive Jerry Krause running Michael Jordan, Phil Jackson, and Scottie Pippen out of town. The Celtics dynasty in the 80s with Larry Bird ended because of the players getting older, and that's what it seems likely is going to happen with the Golden State Warriors. They are going to keep Steph Curry and Klay Thompson together for as long as possible. I think the odd man out is going to eventually end up being Draymond Green, and I know there's a lot of speculation of him joining the Lakers because he seems to have this weird tight bond with LeBron James. I think that's a move that makes sense. I don't think Draymond Green is worth the hassle for the Warriors at this current moment. At the end of last season, with the Warriors winning the NBA Finals, we all felt great about their future, but things have drastically changed. They don't look like that team anymore. The young core we were all believing in doesn't look so great. Jordan Poole took a giant step back, missing a big shot against the Lakers. Then you had Jonathan Kuminga, who was in and out of the rotation. The team got rid of Jonathan Wiseman. I mean, this extended future for the Warriors doesn't look as bright as it did just a few months ago, where we were all thinking this dynasty could go on for years and years. Now it's weirdly come down to how much longer is Steph Curry going to be playing like a top 5 player in all of basketball. And I mean, realistically, you've got maybe 2 or 3 more years at best. It can happen at any moment. He has been an injury-prone guy in the past. He might not be able to play all 82 games. I mean, the Warriors need to do their best to rest Steph Curry, and to be able to do that, they have to have a great roster around him, and right now that is what they are lacking. They do not have a massive amount of talent outside of Steph Curry. They are 2 different teams when he's on the floor, and that should be the case. He's an all-time player, but that used to not be the case. They used to have a great core around him and be one of the deepest teams in all of basketball, and now they are not. I mean, this is a team that last season went 11-30 on the road. That's not a record a contending team has. That is not good enough. Yes, they are a great home team, but during those road games, they did not look like a good basketball team. They looked like a bad one. One has to wonder if Bob Myers is leaving Golden State because he doesn't believe in this team anymore. He doesn't believe they can win, and he knows that he may be forced to pay an exorbitant amount of money to keep a core together that can no longer win championships. Curry is still a top-tier player who can dominate and be the best player in the league, but Klay Thompson is inconsistent, and Draymond, like I said, for me, is no longer worth a lot of money. If he could come back to the Warriors on a team-friendly deal, I would take him, but that's not likely going to be the case. And this is just pure speculation, but I believe the Warriors executives want to get rid of Draymond. The problem is Steph Curry, your best player, and Klay Thompson, your second best player, want that guy on that roster because they want to keep that championship core together. Steve Kerr has talked about how he wants Draymond Green back. As long as those 3 people want Draymond back, he might likely be back, and they might be forced to give him way too much money than what he's worth. I do want to talk about Bob Myers' overall legacy in the game of basketball. To me, he's one of the best modern basketball executives. He's got the 4 titles. The other names I even bring up are Masai Ujiri, who brilliantly made the Kawhi Leonard trade, and Pat Riley, who got LeBron and D-Wade to come together, and then got Jimmy Butler. Myers, like them, is definitely a future Hall of Famer. He's got 4 titles with the Warriors, and in all likelihood, this isn't the end of his career as a basketball executive. He's going to be offered a massive amount of money to run another basketball team, and he's going to be worth it. Like, there are so many teams that want Bob Myers to help turn them around. Like, if I were the Clippers, I would give all the money in the world to bring in a guy like Bob Myers who knows what to do with a roster that has championship expectations. If I were a rebuilding team, I would want to bring in Bob Myers. There's very few hirings in the NBA nowadays that come with great stature. Like, Bob Myers is coming with an overall legacy. If you hire him to run your basketball team, those 4 championships come with him. Like, I look at the Detroit Pistons giving a lot of money for Monty Williams. Monty Williams is a great hire for the Pistons. They gave him a boatload, though, $78 million. Do you know what is missing from Monty Williams' resume? An NBA championship. Bob Myers has won an NBA championship, and he's done it recently. Now, he's not a head coach, but he can change the foundation of an organization more so than a head coach. He knows how to build a winning roster, and he knows how to maintain relationships with star players. He, by all accounts, has great relationships with Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green, and he had a great relationship with Kevin Durant. If I'm a team like the Clippers who has Kawhi Leonard and I want to keep him happy, I'm going to try to bring in a guy like Bob Myers. I also think the Dallas Mavericks should definitely be in on bringing in Bob Myers. This is a team that used to be one of the most consistent teams in all of basketball. Now they don't know what they're doing. Should they bring back Kyrie Irving? I think the man who would have all the answers is Bob Myers. The Warriors in recent years have become synonymous with their enormous amount of spending. They currently have 2 players making over $40 million a year and 5 players making over $25 million. They are right up there with the Clippers as the highest payroll. Owner Joe Lacob is clearly not afraid to spend money, which is why it's kind of surprising to see Myers go. He's given $1 million resources to put together a winning team. He either A, wants a new challenge to put together a new team somewhere else, or B, wants some time off. Another big question in all of this is, where does this leave Steve Kerr? Steve Kerr was hired by Bob Myers. There's been a lot of media speculation that Steve Kerr would be the perfect successor to Greg Popovich in San Antonio because Steve Kerr ended his playing career with the San Antonio Spurs. If the Warriors go into full rebuild mode in the next few years, I find it very hard to believe that Steve Kerr will still be their head coach. He is a winning type of coach. He has been put in the perfect situation with rising stars and then mega stars with Kevin Durant. He is not the type of coach I think I want to be the head coach of a rebuilding situation. So it's going to be interesting to see how much longer Steve Kerr is the head coach of the Golden State Warriors. Losing a general manager can drastically change the trajectory of a team. The Lakers lost Jerry West, and soon after, Kobe and Shaq broke up. We don't know how this will affect the Jordan Poole and Draymond Green situation. I think the team should keep Poole. He was definitely rattled all year long, and Green isn't worth the trouble. Like I said, he's a shell of himself offensively. He can't even hit the occasional three anymore. Possibly getting rid of him and the Klay contract is going to be difficult decisions, ones that you'd want Myers being the one making. This is a big loss for the franchise. Myers has been the quiet hero for this team. The Celtics, for example, have won the NBA Finals 17 times. 16 of them were with Red Auerbach being the one who put the team together. Without him, they've only won 1 time. I'm not saying Bob Myers is Red Auerbach, but I am saying losing a GM who has been the architect of a dynasty is a big deal, and maybe it's an even bigger deal than how we all feel about it right now. Like, it's going to be really fascinating to see where are the Golden State Warriors in a year from now. Is Mike Dunleavy Jr. the perfect replacement for Bob Myers? I mean, he's been under him for so long now. Maybe this is the right move. But the team desperately wanted to keep Bob Myers. I mean, we should keep that in perspective. Maybe this team knows how valuable Bob Myers has been to them. The Miami Heat have been one of the most consistent franchises since Pat Riley took over basketball operations, even when he's not the head coach. He picked Eric Spoelstra, and they've been on this great run where they're now back in the NBA Finals. That consistency of Pat Riley is the man in charge of the Miami Heat is super important, and I think it was important that Bob Myers was the man in charge of the Golden State Warriors. They lose that continuity, and they need to hit the reset button. What is that going to look like in a year from now? It could all be over in a year from now. The Warriors could be at the end of their run. I find it very hard to believe that if Bob Myers believed that this current group of the Warriors was going to win the title next season, that he would step down from this position. I think this is a sign that he doesn't believe in the core, and he doesn't want to make those tough, difficult decisions to break up Draymond from the Splash Brothers. He doesn't want to do that. He doesn't want to deal with, should we trade Jordan Poole? There's just too many things going on with the Warriors. I think this is him not wanting to be the one who breaks up Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, because in 2 years from now, there's a difficult decision to be made. Am I going to give Klay Thompson another max contract extension when he's no longer the player that he was? I mean, this is how dynasties end. And I mean, the Celtics in the 80s kept their core together of Larry Bird, Robert Parrish, and Kevin McHale, and they aged out of being a very good team. This is what's going to happen to the Golden State Warriors. If they want to keep the good times going and have a chance to win a 5th championship title, then they're going to have to make tough decisions regarding Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. I believe the core of the Warriors right now should be Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, and Jordan Poole. And I know a lot of you are down on Jordan Poole. I believe in him. I believe he was rattled by the Draymond Green situation. I believe he's a talented offensive player. I think he's too young to give up on. You already gave him a max extension. Ride this out and try to make him into a star player. That's how you can keep this going. He is a young piece. He's talented. He can score 25. I know he's not consistent, but he can get there. He is still a young player. He's been a part of a team that won a championship. I believe in Jordan Poole. I don't believe you should give up on him just to win another title with veteran players. If the Warriors are looking in the long term, then the long term should include Jordan Poole, and I believe the long term should include Andrew Wiggins. I mean, he is the best two-way player on the Golden State Warriors. That title no longer belongs to Klay Thompson. If you can get Klay Thompson on a team-friendly deal, keep him. If you can get Draymond on a team-friendly deal, keep him. But those guys are no longer worth max extensions. And I believe that's part of the reason why Bob Myers left the Warriors. He doesn't want to be the one who breaks up the band. He knows the players are the ones calling the shots. He knows Steph Curry has all of the power, and Steph Curry clearly wants Klay Thompson and Draymond Green on his basketball team for as long as humanly possible. And I think Bob Myers knows that that's not going to have a great outcome when it comes to winning basketball games 3 years from now, when you have 3 guys on max contracts who 2 of them are not max players. I said this earlier, one of the keys to Myers' success has been his relationship with players. Steph Curry, Klay, D, and Draymond seem to really like him, and this probably has to do something with the fact Myers is a former basketball agent, and that has been a recent trend. Former agents running basketball teams. You also have Rob Pelinka with the Lakers and Leon Rose with the Knicks, and it's been successful. Pelinka won a ring with the Lakers. The Knicks have been good under Rose. The NBA is a league run by the players, so it makes all the sense in the world that they would enjoy a former agent being the GM on the team that they are on. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that head coaches were also running basketball operations. Doc Rivers was the head coach and the general manager of the Clippers. That didn't work out. Stan Van Gundy was the head coach and GM of the Detroit Pistons. That did not work out. Only a few coaches ever have been successful in both roles. I look at Pat Riley and I look at Greg Popovich. Doc Rivers isn't that good at being an executive, and Stan Van Gundy clearly wasn't qualified to be running basketball operations of the Pistons. I like the idea of the GM being someone who the players can trust, so it makes sense that a former agent would be the one in that position, not a head coach. I don't think a head coach should have all of the power. Like if Steve Kerr took over basketball operations for the Warriors, I think that would be a mess. Even though he was an executive in Phoenix, I like the idea of it being Mike Dunleavy Jr. Like, I don't think the Warriors should give Kerr all of the power. Now, a head coach should have input on the roster, but not full control. And I'm thankful the Warriors are not giving Steve Kerr full control, because if they gave Steve Kerr full control, he would give Klay Thompson and Draymond Green super mega extensions right away play, and that would not be the right call. I believe this trend of hiring agents to run basketball teams is far from over. When Myers took over the Golden State Warriors, they were a second-rate NBA franchise and had former stars like Chris Mullins and Baron Davis, but had not had a lot of playoff success. He turned them into a dynasty. He turned them into a signature franchise, and it will be interesting to see if the team stays that way without him. This isn't as big as if the Warriors had lost Steph Curry to another team, but I do believe this move will be even more impactful in the months to come because there are big decisions coming when it comes to the future of the Golden State Warriors, and I believe the best man to handle that future would have been Bob Myers. Where will this team be without him? And the other big question is, how soon will he be running another NBA team? I believe he's going to run another team. He's too young to be completely done being the president of basketball operations for a basketball team. Some team is going to hire him, and some team is going to get the best executive in all of basketball. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.